The ones that I just showed you, really, we're pushing stuff out. We're just sending stuff somewhere. And you need something to pick it up, right? So if I'm streaming with any other streaming software, hardware, I need some sort of software to decode it, either software or hardware decoder. That's great because it's open, it's an open format. We can kind of pick which hardware we're going to use, pick which software, but on a large scale, doesn't really work very well. If you can imagine, if I'm streaming to a college and I have 6,000 new students coming in every year, it's really hard for my IT staff to make sure they have all the components installed on their machines that they need, such as an Adobe Flash player. And as you can see, like with iPads, you can't get Adobe Flash. So what Haivision does that's very, very unique, and they're the only ones that do it, is they have what's called the in-stream player. It's an install-less player. So my end viewers, all they have to have is a web browser, and that's it. And we shoot the player with the stream. And the stream and the player identify what system it's on and will adjust itself accordingly. So anybody on any device can pull streams from Haivision. Beyond that, we offer quite a bit of other things. So up here it's going to say, we want to enhance communications. I think it's actually kind of a misnomer. What Haivision does very well is control your video. So I have complete control over all of my endpoints through Haivision. A good example is if I am a school and I have required content for people to view. Number one, I can see who's pulling my streams. I can see what they're pulling it from, and I can see what they're doing with it. So if I have a required video, I can see if my student is watching it. I have a log if they watched it or not. And I can also see them live. If they're pulling my stream, what are they doing with it? Did my student just minimize my window so they're not actually watching it? They're on eBay doing something. I can see that, and I can adjust their computer. So I can take control of their machine as totally Big Brother, but I can see what people are doing with my video and adjust how they're viewing it. So for that student that minimized my video, I can see it, and I can trigger my video to go full screen and lock him out of his machine. So now he can't do anything until I give him control back. So you get a lot more control when we're working with Haivision. For corporate communications, that's a really big deal. Number one, I know who's watching what. Number two, I'm keeping logs of it. And number three, it's secure. So when I'm going to that in-stream player, another big point is that because it's not installed, when I click off of that player, nothing exists on my system. So when we're talking about security, they don't have the video. When I go to like an Adobe player or like a QuickTime player, if I have QuickTime Pro, I can hit record. Right? With their stuff, you can't, unless the administrator gives you that functionality. So encryption is a really big deal, as well as HIPAA compliancy. So for medical applications, this is HIPAA compliant. So we can put this in, and doctors can be transmitting patient data around through their networks. So unified communications is their big thing. Besides having control of my video and how it's viewed, we also do a couple different things. So number one, Coolabyte is a product that they have. I'm sorry, it's auto forwarding. Coolabyte does live video delivery to the internet. So Coolabyte are standalone encoders that we can kind of point this whole system to deliver it to the internet. Streaming from the cloud is HyperStream. This is similar to what Ustream is doing. We send them a stream, and then they replicate it in multiple different formats in the cloud. And that's what HyperStream does. So for companies or businesses that don't want to rely on a service like Ustream to do that, and they want it all in-house so they can control it, HyperStream is what does that. They also have a signage product called CoolSign. CoolSign is, we run the Pentagon on CoolSign. So number one, it's super secure. Number two, I can control large networks with CoolSign. So 90% of all shopping mall digital advertising is done through CoolSign. And most of it's done by one single person. So one single person controlling thousands of players. It's a lot of signage software you can't really do that effectively with. And we can also do some really interesting things when we pair it with the rest of our streaming content, because now I can stream live video into my digital signage. So if we have digital signage, you know, picture a lower third graphic, weather over here, and then live video in the middle. We do that a lot in stadiums. And then finally, encode and deliver, which with their encoders. So, use cases for high vision. Number one, live video delivery. Any of these pieces that they make are standalone pieces, so you don't have to be wrapped into their entire system. But a lot of people go to high vision because they know they support that entire system. So if you don't need it today, tomorrow if you have new needs, high vision really does some unique things. Streaming from the cloud, digital signage like I mentioned. Another cool digital signage thing that CoolSign does is we're very effective with doing triggers. So we can trigger things on my screen based on conditions somewhere else. Example is a fire alarm being pulled. We can pick up the fire alarm signal and trigger content on my screen. The other thing, like in shopping malls, what they'll do is we can monitor RSS feeds and make content decisions based on those. So shopping malls, what they do is we monitor the weather, right? If it's 90 degrees outside, we're gonna advertise sunglasses. It doesn't take a user to do that. We just monitor the weather. We tie that weather, feed into pieces of content. So if it's 30 degrees, we're going to start advertising jackets. So it can run as an automated system once we set up those triggers. IPTV encoding and delivery, video management, and lecture capture. Doesn't say on here, video on demand. So video on demand is another really big thing that they do. Lecture capture is kind of interesting. They have a new product for that, and it's sitting right back there kind of by the cookies. It's called the Viper. It's a weird looking box with color bars on it. What that does is it takes two inputs. So I can take like an input from a camera and an input from like a PowerPoint or a computer. I see it used in churches quite a bit. So we can capture both of these incoming feeds in sync with each other, and we can deliver them out to the cloud. So now my users can log in and get both of those, and my user, if I give them access as the administrator, can reformat them. So we can say, you know what, I only want to see the camera, and they can make that full screen. Or I only want to see the presentation. Or I want to do picture-in-picture, or side-by-side. So your user can dictate how they want to view the content if I give them that access. But it also does things like hot marks. So a hot mark is like a chapter marker. It's a metadata tag. So in a school situation, you might want to add a tag at each different topic that comes up. So when my viewer goes in, they're going to see all the little marks on the timeline and what those marks are associated with. So here's where we really play very, very well, which is kind of everywhere. So I don't know if it's saying much. Medical and military are huge for high vision because we are the only people doing video HIPAA compliant. So, when we want to push any type of patient data, it has to be HIPAA compliant. What's really scary is that we do telesurgery with high vision. So we will hook up, robotic surgical equipment to an encoder, and you have a doctor sitting somewhere else operating on you. And we do that, number one, because of HIPAA compliancy, but the biggest thing in doing that is latency. So high vision is the only place where you're going to get the lowest latency possible. So in my background, I did a lot of events. We would do auctions, right? We could never stream because in an auction scenario, or in a trading, like a financial trading scenario, if there's a delay, you lose money, right? High vision does 70 millisecond delivery. So from encode to decode is 70 milliseconds, which is smoking fast. Most people are around 2 to 3 seconds. So 70 milliseconds is really, really fast. In the military, all of the Predator drones use high vision. So military is a huge market for high vision. Every drone piece of equipment they're delivering the video back to the operator via high vision encoders. Education, kind of the same scenario that I mentioned earlier. It's really about scalability. Having to install software on machines doesn't scale when we have thousands of viewers. So that's really why they like to go with high vision. We do a lot of video delivery to dorm rooms. A lot of new dorms don't. I'm sorry?
I can see video furnace in there.
Yeah, that's their product.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Video Furnace? Yeah, so High Vision bought them about 5 years ago or 4 years ago. So, not only that, but in education, we see a lot of dorm rooms that are doing new construction. They're not putting any coax in. So when they want to do cable television into the dorm rooms, High Vision has agreements with content providers so that they can turn off pro-idiom encryption. The problem is that normally when we're distributing cable television, they don't like us to do that, right? Because they want to sell set-top boxes and your Comcast box. Because we are encrypted, they give High Vision a pass and they'll actually let them stream their content. For them, it's all about being able to be recorded. They don't want their network television recorded without permission. Corporate environment, kind of the same thing. It's all about scalability and control. Retail advertisement, I mean, we do that all the time. Churches, I have many churches that use High Vision if they have multiple campuses. So we do a few different types of encoders and decoders. We do two-way, so it's almost like, almost like Skype, right? Except it's high def and broadcast quality and really, really fast. So we do that for a lot of churches that have multiple campuses, so the pastor can go to any one campus and hit all the others. Sports and entertainment, that's a really fun one for me. We do quite a bit of stadiums. And I mentioned Cisco, right? So Cisco does streaming video. They have a couple big problems with their streaming video. Number one, it's pretty latent, and number two, they can't control the latency. So what High Vision allows me to do is sync all of my displays. So I can see, going through all the different networks that might be in my building, I can see how latent one display is over the other and sync them all. So everything in my installation is all together. Cisco can't do that. Nobody can do that. So actually I go into a lot of different arenas and football fields that they had Cisco and it doesn't work. The worst part is when you are sitting down watching the game and you get up and go to the bathroom and they have a screen in the bathroom and you're watching what you saw on your seat, right? Or if you're walking around the stadium and every different screen is at a different time. And OEM, we are OEM'd in quite a bit of different solutions, especially in the medical market. So I'm going to give you a couple use cases and why High Vision fits very well. This is British Petroleum. They have 2 trading floors. They have one in Chicago and one in Texas. I think this is the one in Texas. I don't know if you can see how vast this room is, but there's over 350 desktop computers on this in that one room. And each aisle is capped by a flat panel. There's flat panels up here. There's flat panels all around the walls. I mean, there is hundreds of displays in the same room. They wanted High Vision, number one, because they're doing trading. So we need to have the least amount of latency. Number two, we can sync the displays. If you walked into a room with 600 displays in it and they weren't synced up, it would be a mess, right? So that's really why they like High Vision as well as the encryption. This really got pushed, unfortunately, after the oil spill in Louisiana, when a lot of corporate communications were leaked to the press, right? So they decided that, hey, maybe we should start securing all of our video. And that's where High Vision kind of came in. Education, it's kind of all over the board. These education facilities do so many different things. So we're in the hospitals that are on-site campuses. So we can, deliver their data. We're doing delivery to the dorm rooms. We're doing video on demand for their classroom content. It's kind of all over the board. The schools do, I think, the most with these systems, just because they're so diverse. But for them, in all education, it's about ease of use, right? I come from, my whole family's a teacher except for me, and to teach them technology is very difficult for me. So everything has to be really, really easy to use. That box back there is really designed for classrooms because it has 3 buttons. It has record, stop, and stream, and that's it. And maintenance. IT staffs get really scared when we start pushing video around their network, and they think they have to manage this, and you know, what's the security, what are you doing to my network? Haivision's very good at that.
How much you can push through it also.
Exactly. So everything with Haivision, I can add a cap. So my IT staff says, hey, you guys have 8 megs and that's it. I can put a cap on my system and it will never go above that. So that's very important for those IT staffs. You know, medical, I already touched on. I'll actually move forward to houses of worship. Again, on demand is really cool. It's, you know, for churches it's all about outreach, right? How many people can you touch with your message? So this, number one, we're making sure that everybody can get my message because I don't have to have a particular piece of software installed. And number two, it's just easy to use. A lot of video on demand systems are kind of difficult to navigate through for an untrained person. This comes up and it looks like the DVR in your home. I mean, you select what you want. Do you want to watch a live stream or do you want to watch recorded content? We touched on this. This is important though. I'm also able to do metadata within my video stream. So I can be pushing metadata about my video inside my stream. So my endpoints get that metadata information. So like if it was the markers or any type of tags I'm doing on my video, my endpoints are going to see those as well. Sports and entertainment, we touched on that a little bit. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers did it the best so far that I've seen, in that it's all IPTV throughout their Heinz Field. And so you go into any of the boxes, and the boxes can pull, you know, we can watch pre-recorded games from last week, we can be previewing plays that happen, we can look at highlights of some player that's playing well in the game, and everybody gets their own unique experience, right? It's not one person determining what everybody gets. Every box has a remote control and they can choose what they want to view. And in sports, it's always integrated into their digital signage because digital signage is all about selling stuff, right? So hot dogs, whatever they're selling. So I'm going to quickly go through the Haivision product line, and then I'll show you guys how these products actually work. So for stream management, we have the video furnace. That is the middleware piece. So the video furnace sees my encoders, and it sees my decoders or my end viewers. And that's what's going to allow me to adjust them remotely. So through the video furnace, I can change settings on my encoders, I can change settings on my decoders. I really have all the control that I want happens through the video furnace, and that is a server product. So I actually have a small one that's sitting back here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's just a small box. This is a demo version. It's normally a rack mountable server. Encoders and decoders, we have quite a few. The Mako, all of their encoders and decoders that I'll show you, they either come in this form factor, so like an appliance, a little box, but they are also all blades. So if we're doing a high channel count, they can go into a chassis. The Mako is a two-way device. So this is what I use in a lot of churches or anybody that needs kind of telepresence type functionality where we're doing a two-way conversation. However, in all of their other encoders, we do two-way audio. So somebody that's on the decode end can plug in an audio, a microphone, and we can be talking back and forth, but the video is only going one way. So the Makito is their high-def single-way transmitting encoder, and the Barracuda is the standard depth version. For multi-stream recording and publishing, it's this Viper box that's sitting back there. So what's interesting about the Viper is not only do I have two high-def encoders built into it, and I can be mixing those two, but it also has the entire video furnace infrastructure built into it. So all I have to do is put in that little box and give it network connection, and I can be serving live video and video on demand to 150 people simultaneously. So it gets up to 150 people, and that box will handle it by itself. It's probably the easiest thing I've ever installed in terms of streaming. Now, we have another version of the product, and I didn't mention, but that has an 800 gig hard drive in it, so we're doing the recording for the video on demand locally. There's a lot of instances where we want to do multiples of those, like schools. So multiple schoolrooms, they're going to want one in each schoolroom, right?
What's the price on something?
$20,000. If I was to piece together that solution, so this product was just released in January. If I was to piece together that before the product was released, it would have cost me about $50 to do the exact same thing. So it's all wrapped into one box, and it's half the price, so that's kind of cool. But this will also allow me, with the other version, which is called the Viper Max, I believe they call it. We actually strip out the video furnace functionality from it, and we strip out the hard drive, and then we'll use a centralized server. So it costs, I think, $5,000 less per box, and then we just use a centralized server to handle all the video furnace functionality and all of the video on demand. So that just becomes a capture point, right? So we're just doing capturing from that. Set-top boxes, we have the Stingray. Digital signage is the CoolSign platform. And we do live streaming to the internet via Coolabyte, as well as a product called HyperStream. So that is the Haivision product line. Another thing to note, this is the second largest streaming company next to Cisco. They have around 200 employees worldwide. They have two corporate headquarters, one in Canada and one in Chicago. This is a rock solid company. This is kind of the rock star of streaming right now. So, now I'm done with the slides, so I'll actually show you how some of this stuff works. So first thing I'm going to show you guys is Wirecast. This is the software that we talked about. So, here is my Wirecast session. Now what you can see is that I'm using my iSight camera, but I could connect a camera to use it. And then I'm doing what they call desktop presenter, which is like a screen capture. So anything that's happening on my screen, like a PowerPoint, I can be presenting. Now I created this, so I can make any of these boxes bigger or smaller. I can adjust them. I can do lower third graphics. Anything that I really want to do. And I can also set up multiple shots. So on the bottom there, those are the multiple shots that I have to switch between. I can add a new shot, and I just select how do I want to change into that next shot. So I'm going to bowstring this. So if I click on another shot, that's how I do my switching. So it's enabling me to do switching between multiple shots, right? Now if I go back into this one, I'm going to edit this shot. So I have two different inputs coming in, my screen and my camera. Now if I select my camera, I can say, yeah, I like that one, but I want it down here. And I need it tilted a little bit, or I need it bigger or smaller. I can arrange these however I want.
Can you do all that while it's live, while it's streaming that
Yep.
particular?
Probably wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
I'd probably set up two shots that are identical, right?
For one
And then edit one and then switch to it. But super easy to use. Problem is, I have to have somebody here to use it, right? I have to have a body sitting in a seat to actually operate it. That's where this doesn't always fit everybody. For churches, we do a lot with churches for this because normally there's a volunteer sitting around, right? It's easy to find volunteer labor at a church, hopefully. But hopefully.
All the church people are laughing.
So other than that, I could take, let's look at this one. So I could choose, how do I want to do these banners? I can adjust them, I can make it bigger or smaller. It's basically, it's kind of like a TriCaster, right? It's giving me a TV studio in a box.
What's the price on that?
The Pro version is $995 retail.
Okay, that's the one.
Yeah.
So that's the version that's Pro right there? Or is it-
The only thing that you get what you get out of a Pro versus their standard version is you get more audio support, so you get more codecs that you can use, you get more video codecs, and you get more support for different connected cameras. So it's $995 for the Pro version. I don't really sell a lot of the standard version just because it's $1,000 and it does. For the cost, this is like the best value product that I've ever seen. I'm actually kind of upset as a salesperson that it's so low cost.
Do you still have to go through Ustream to use this?
No, so I'll show you that in just a second. So, I've set up the shots that I want. Now when I get into my broadcast. So, the nice thing is that I can do two things with this at one time. I can stream it out, and I can record it. I can record it locally. So, I select someplace on my hard drive that I want to record, and I can create a file out of it, whether it's an MPEG file or a flash file or whatever I want. But if I so as you can see, I have multiple destinations.
Will it record like only streaming outputs? Like it's like Flash or Windows Media or something like that, or will it record AVI or some higher res format that you could maybe use for editing later if you wanted?
Let me look. Yeah, it looks like it's just giving me MP4s and H.264s. But I can also do Flash too, so that one's set to a Flash. Oh, here we go. There's what I was looking for. Yeah, so MPEG-4 or Flash. But if you saw under my destinations, I can set up my own server and I can send it to my own server, or we have these already integrated. So Ustream, all I have to do is enter in my username and password. Any of those, I just enter in my account information, and it makes that connection. So now I can just handle it directly from here. So it makes it a lot easier when I'm using those. However, I can set it to my own Flash server, whatever I have. So this, I think, out of all of my products, I got this right out of the box. Right? I installed it and I knew how to use it. It's very intuitive. Once I figure out where I'm sending things to, it's really easy to use. It's a switcher, so it's pretty. There's a lot of functionality for $1,000.
Question.
Yeah.
Can you do high def?
I was just going to ask the same thing.
Yeah.
And is it iPad friendly?
That is on the delivery side. So, like for instance, if I'm using Ustream, Ustream is going to give me any type of stream, so anybody can hit it. So it really comes down to the CDN. That's one of the points about products like this is that I'm just getting an output,
Okay.
right? And it needs to bounce off something else to get to devices, like a CDN service. And there are so many different CDNs out there. It's incredible. Some of them are more expensive, some of them are less. But they're all, it all depends on how many viewers you're going to support.
So with a product like this, how do you input HD video?
Yeah.
I mean, from a live source.
So
Capture card?
either a capture card, or I can use a USB or FireWire depending on what my machine has. So if I have a USB high-def camera, I can use that. Or if I have like a Matrox card or you know.
Or USB 3 or something
Yep.
like that.
So any connected device to my host computer, it will see.
And it works in both platforms, PC and
Yeah, Mac.
PC and Mac.
Yep. So I could set up my broadcast right up here, and then I can hit record as well. So I can broadcast and I can record simultaneously or change when I do both.
Question, can I output to burn DVD immediately?
I don't know that platform. Does it do watch folders? So if I put a file into a folder, will it start its processing?
No, basically, what I'm trying to see if I can do, what we do now is we are recording to a master DVD now. We added a switcher, so it's just connected with live streaming and everything. So it's connected to what the cameras are shooting, what we're switching. I'm trying to see if we eliminated our switcher, which is a basic switcher for SD, and we went all through the computer, if we could somehow have an output to the DVR to record what's coming in.
So just a standalone DVD recorder is what you're saying.
Right.
You could output a. I don't know if it would output a signal that it would see.
Well,
You'd have to have a scan converter or something to go out and turn it into a composite or component feed to go into your DVD. Or
Oh, I
you
see
could
what
get the file from this and then burn it as, re-encode it as an MPEG-2.
it's just an analog.
That'd be a
You just have a standalone analog.
Yeah, real-time recording.
Okay. Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on your time constraints.
Well, we want to immediately, we got about a 15-minute window.
Yeah, so then you would have to basically, you would take an output of the stream, convert it back to analog, and run it into your recorder.
Okay.
Yeah, that's compressing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You could do that with just a set-top box,
Yeah.
like a open player or something, that are a couple $100. But you would just have that pull the stream and convert it back to analog and input that into your DVR. So, any other questions on Wirecast before I move on? It's a pretty straightforward product. It does a lot. All right. So now I will move on to the Viewcast. So like I said, any of these things can be configured directly from the front panel, but I'm going in through the web interface, so my box is sitting back there. So I logged in. You can give different usernames and passwords if you want multiple people to have access to it. But I'll jump into my encoders. This is the important part. So, those are the encoders that I have set up on my box. I have 8 different encoders that are set up. Each one of them can have different output points. So I could go to Ustream at one encoder. I could go, to my own local streaming server. I could go multiple places. And each one can be doing different things. So it could be a different format. It could be, different resolution settings, different audio. Everything is very unique to each one of these streams. And I have the ability to kind of change them on the fly. Right now, we are sending out this flash encoder out to Ustream. So that's why that's blue. It's streaming right now. So let me get into this flash encoder. So this is one of my flash encoders. It's doing flash H.264. If I was working on a different box, the box that we have back there has one SDI, HD, SDI input. So my source is only that, so I don't really have any options there. If we go to some of the other boxes that have multiple inputs, I would choose what source it is. So I can connect multiple sources and stream one of them, right? So at any time I can switch which input is active. We also have the audio settings. You can also set up auto start, so if it sees a signal, it's going to start. Which is kind of nice. And then the important stuff, which is the output. So if I enable my streaming here, this is where I'm going to direct it to where it's streaming to. If I have authentication, I need to add in my username and password. And then we also have output to file. So it has an internal hard drive. We can output it directly to a file in the hard drive. The nice thing is that it has a USB in the front. and I can dump any of these files to USB sticks. So, you know, if it's a meeting and you want everybody to get a copy of the video that happened in the meeting, we can just write it to a USB stick directly from the device. And then if you're really adventurous, you can get into the H.264 presets. Something that I'm not adventurous enough to do. We have everything as a default that's set correctly. If you have very specific needs, you can get in here and change those presets. I'm not that adventurous, so I leave everything as is to the default settings. And then another nice thing is that when we get into my log, so I have a log of everything that's happened with this box. Now this is different because with High Vision I have a log of who pulled my stream, right? I have a log of my end viewers. This is giving me a log of the box itself. So what buttons were pushed, what encoders were started, where did things go to. But after they've left the box, I don't have any more record of it. But this is still very, very useful, right? You can see what you did. If you know you're a business and multiple people are using this, you can see, hey, what was the last thing that was done? If something's wrong, it's easy to go back and find, where things might have gone wrong. But we also do alerts. That's what I want to see. No alerts. But if I had alerts, I can set up my email. So this will email administrators or whoever to let them know something went wrong. And you can set up those conditions, like, if the encoder doesn't start, if it crashes, if something happens, email this person. So that's also very, very nice to have. Another really nice thing that I love about these is that they actually show you their IP address, which a lot of encoders, unfortunately, don't do. So you have to inspect your network and find what the IP is unless you already know what it was set at. These, directly from the front panel, I can see what my IP address is. And for me, I go everywhere, into different rooms, everywhere. I plug it in and I just find the IP address and then I can log in. So that's actually a small feature, but it's very useful. And here is where I would set up a few other things. So, number one, where's the email account that I'm sending from? Where am I sending to? I was looking for this yesterday, actually. We can set stuff on an idle screen. We can also do, I was looking for it with Christine yesterday, doing logos instead of color bars. Right now, well, another nice thing that people don't realize is that many encoders, when they don't have an input signal, they don't display anything. It's just black. So you don't know if it's working or not. This will actually stream color bars. If you're not giving it an input signal, it's going to stream color bars. So for, a troubleshooting scenario, it's a lot easier to troubleshoot your system if you know at least I'm getting color bars, so hey, it's on my input side, right? A lot of encoders, unfortunately, don't do that, so it's kind of a mess when you have to track down what the problem is. And I love this high temperature alert, so you get notified if you're heating this box up too much. So that is the Niagara GUI. Now, each one of their boxes have the exact same software. So every one of them is going to be this exact same thing. And with their SCX software, I can manage multiples of them. So each one has their own web GUI, but they have a software that will combine them all if I have multiple encoders. Now let me get into High Vision.
So is Kilobyte underneath it High Vision? Okay.
Kilobyte is a High Vision owned.
Okay.
Yeah, they purchased Kilobyte last year. I don't know if you'd heard of Kilobyte before. They do all the streaming for NASCAR.
Okay.
So if you go to a NASCAR website, all the video that you're seeing there is being pushed out by a Kilobyte encoder. They're based in Texas, and High Vision bought them last year.
What's the cost of that?
They have different versions. I think Their standard version is like 12,000. The high vision stuff isn't cheap. It's not, but where it goes, it's actually very inexpensive compared to alternatives.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly. So, hopefully I'm still logged in here. Probably not though. Oh, yeah. Alright. So I don't know if you just saw, but I logged into my high vision box here. And I just hit in-stream. That is my in-stream player, and it waited there for a second. What that was doing was identifying what I'm on. If I'm on an iPad, if I'm on a computer. So it identified that, hey, I'm on a Mac, I'm on OS X, and it shot me a correct player. So this is the control interface. Like I said, very much like your own DVR. Now the way this is sold, the video furnace itself, is by how many channels I can support. So if you see, I have what's live channels, playback channels, and VF now. I have 2 live channels, so that means that my system can support 2 live encoders. So I can be streaming 2 live channels, as well as I can support 2 playback channels. So when my viewer logs in, they can either watch live content, they can watch a playback channel. A playback channel is recorded content that I've put into a playlist, right? So, and I'll click on one and you'll see the schedule for the day. It's just like a television channel, right?
Now, question on that. If you currently have, we do have video furnace,
Mhm.
can maybe high vision, some of the other components be configured into that system?
When did you guys get your furnace?
Maybe 9 years ago.
Yeah. They've come a long way too.
Yeah.
This is their newest interface, so yours probably looks a little bit different.
Yeah, it's like the old one that goes in there,
Yeah,
blue and red.
yeah. So then you're familiar with the playback channels, right? So again, that's my schedule for the day on playback channel 1. And then I can also choose to do on demand. So on demand, this is all of the content that has been recorded. And I'll pick this one. So that's what I'm going to watch. I'm streaming this from my server. This functionality right here, what I'm doing, scrubbing, that's really, really hard to do for video on demand. It's extremely hard to do. I haven't seen one other system that can do it that responsive. I also have those yellow marks. Those are hot marks. So you can add those live. You can add them in post. But those are my markers. So if I jump up to how to boil milk, there we go. That responsiveness right there, I just jumped to a hot mark and it started playing. That's smoking fast for network video. So you can see how that could be used in many different scenarios, whether it's a meeting, if it's a class, if it's, you know, if it's a church sermon.
It's pretty fast for editing.
It really
The
is.
market go into it that quick. It's pretty fast.
Yeah, my DVR doesn't work that fast. So, let's see. I can also do things like this. Where'd it go? Oh, I must have it turned off. I can also do a multi-viewer. So in the new iteration, I can create multiple regions on my screen and pull in multiple different streams. So I can be previewing multiple streams at the same time. The caveat with that is that only one of them can be at a full frame rate. So if I have 4 different feeds coming in and I'm monitoring them all, only one's going to be at full frame rate. But all I have to do is click on the other one and that one's now going to be my full frame rate. The other ones are going to drop. But you can arrange them however you want. In the case of that of the Viper, what happens is the end viewer, I'm producing 2 streams, but it's actually presented as one to the end viewer. So my end viewer, they get a link or they get whatever it is to log into that box, and they're going to pull a player, and it's actually going to be 2 videos in that player, but the user can say, hey, I need to separate those, or I need to unlink them. And then I can break them out and I can rearrange them however I want. So it is 2 individual streams, but kind of standard we present it as one. But your user has the ability to change that. So let me actually get into the tools here.
Yeah, that still looks.
Very similar? Yep. So, if I get into this admin, actually, you know what? Number 1, users and groups, big deal. I can determine who gets access to what pieces of content. But on kind of the network video side, if I am doing scheduling of network television, we actually work with the Tribune Media Service. So we can download all of these logos from my channels. So if I have a CNN channel, when my viewer goes to look, they actually see a CNN logo for that channel. It just makes navigating what you're looking for much easier. So we can determine what's going to be on my playback channels. I can create the schedule for those playback channels. I can assign, any type of login credentials for a particular channel. And here's where I get in and pull any reports, who watched what did they do with it. This is my favorite part though, command and control. So through command and control, this is where I can take command and control of any of my end viewers. So if I get in here, for some reason I haven't given myself access to it. But if we see right here, I have a current command. So basically I issue a command, whether it's guide open, whether it's change channel, whether it's send an instant message. Anything that I want to do to those endpoints, I can issue that command from here and tell it where that command needs to go. So I can say, you know what, only marketing department needs this instant message. And I'll only send a message out to their players.
I think that might be a little bit newer than the older version, because the older version you could do the signage, but it was across the whole IP network.
Yeah,
So
I can do targeted per
so you do
individual.
targeted.
Yeah. And then we have the VF NVR. So the way that we do network recordings is in 2 different ways. We have a software solution. So software can take, I believe, up to, it's either 2 or 4 streams, and we can be recording them simultaneously. We also have a hardware NVR, network video recorder, that can do up to 8 or 10, I think, at a time. So that's kind of the, that's the Haivision meat and potatoes right there. Besides their encoders, this is what makes them different, is the video furnace. So, I'm finished with my presentation. Now do you guys have any questions that I can answer?
Do you have any literature on it?
Christine?
It's somewhere in this building, we can't find it.
We can't go back without it.
I'll print you some PDFs. I'll sign you a note from the doctor.
Thank you.
No, we'll email everybody the links to the PDFs,
Please.
because yeah, it's in the building.
It was delivered.
It was delivered, and I saw it, and then this room got cleaned up, and I wasn't here last week, and I came back and I'm like, where is it? Nobody knows where it got put. So it's
It's here.
We need a note. Under new management, we need a note.
send you a note saying I promise they were there. I'll get you some documentation. I've got documentation in the back from old shows. I'll give you.
Okay. I dig it. We need this cause.
Anything else I can answer for you guys? Awesome.
I got the price.
Yeah, so if you guys ever need to see any of this technology, number 1, I'm available for you at any time to do a web demo. Just let me know. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do a demo over the web. If you guys need in person, I can do that as well. Obviously, it's a little more limiting on schedule. But If you need demo equipment, if you want to take things for a test drive, just let Modern Communications know and we will send you out equipment on a 30-day trial. It's really, we try to make it easy to work with, so if you need anything, if you need tech support, if you have questions, anybody in your facility needs some type of demo or literature, we'd be more than happy to provide it. So we are definitely here for you guys if you have questions. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very much.